Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is the 11th of January, and boy, do we have a full program for us to discuss today. Yeah, clown world and idiocy is growing exponentially in 2025. And yes, Trump is part of that clown idiocy that's growing exponentially in 2025, or will be very soon. So let's begin. Why wait? Let's begin with the fact that the Germans have grabbed a Russian tanker, Aventin. Supposedly it was floundering around due to some kind of mechanical issues. We've seen things like that called explosions in the maintenance or in the engine room as it was passing near German territory in neutral waters, mind you. Now, the tanker's carrying 99,000 tons of oil. Germany, along with Poland, in December, signed up for the pirate brigade. Pirate Scholz is now leading the pirate fleet to seize Russian ships. Steal, in other words. The ship was heading from Ust-Luga to Egypt. So this is Egyptian oil. Heading down that way. So this is a theft of a ship. They're going to use whatever terms they can to grab the ship, pull it into port, and siphon off the oil. Because the Europeans are thieves. European civilization's been built on theft. Theft of most of other resources from the rest of humanity. Which is going to pull us into the next subject, as a matter of fact. The neighbors of one thieves who are now being, are the next neighbors over. Thieves upon thieves. So these thieves, flat out, murderous thieves, are going to steal this oil. Under whatever reason they're going to come up with, it doesn't matter. They're going to steal this oil. Germany is broken. It is fuel poor. And they're going to do whatever they can to steal oil. Because they don't have it themselves. They won't buy it like honest people, because there's no honesty in them. And they're going to steal it. Just like thieves. So what we're coming down to is that Russian ships will have military escorts. And of course, what these half-brained morons really don't seem to understand is nothing's ever going to get forgiven. And one way or the other, Germany and the German people will be paying with percentages. It may be paying when the Russian army is taking Berlin and annexing it to Russia. They will pay in territory, they will pay in destruction, or they will pay in money if they ever want to get back in the Russian market, if they're smart enough not to get themselves fully in a war with Russia. But if they get themselves fully in a war with Russia, Siemens isn't going to have to worry about getting back into the market, Russian market. Siemens is going to be worried about how to rebuild their own headquarters and piece together what's left of their executive team that's been blown up. And their factories have been blown up. Because Germany is going to be left for dead when this is over. And if the German people aren't smart enough to clobber the animals that rule them, well, they better wake the hell up because, But I know what's going to happen. I mean, look, I've discussed this. In fact, I've got a interview coming out with Harmut Schumacher, not related to the driver. The German people... Most of the German people are spineless. They've been bred to be spineless over the last 60 years. And they will do nothing. But, as he said, in the case that in the next elections, the alternative future for Germany wins an overwhelming majority, which is a possibility. They're the second biggest party in Germany right now. And there's a very good chance, the way everything's rolling, that they may get up to 51% in the next elections. And as this political analyst says, they'll be canceled instantly. And the elections will be canceled as well. Europe has shown its ugly mug. Romania has been shown. The only way to get rid of these parasites is with pitchforks and fire. That's it. That's the only way to get rid of the parasites of Europe. But since the majority of the parasites have more parasites in society, they're dependent on the goodwill of the parasites in power, nothing's going to change. Only a total destruction and a crash can actually do something to change these kinds of systems. They're not self-correctable systems. They're not. They're so far past self-correcting. only revolutions or only major war that just destroys that nation and levels it down to the foundations can actually allow something new to be rebuilt. You can't make great that which is rotten. Sorry. That's like make America great again. You can't, because it's rotted out. Excuse me. It's rotted out. You cannot build something great on a foundation that's rotted out. And let's take a look at Los Angeles as a prime example. 10,000 destroyed buildings. 10,000 destroyed buildings. Up to 150 billion, with a big B, billion dollars of damage. Insurance companies are bankrupting. Those that didn't leave fast enough before that are bankrupting. Now, look who's suffered this time. It would be one thing if this was the ghettos burned. Okay, they're not a major economic root source. But you lost major frontline tourist businesses, major old businesses, and the houses of the rich. The people that, by the way, invest in the local economy. And why did that happen? You got fire hydrants without water. Agriculture in Southern California is dead, right? So they transferred the water from the agriculture in Southern California to the city of Los Angeles. This gigantic city mostly built in a desert environment. That wouldn't be even that bad. No, they killed the inland sea, let it dry out fully, instead of trying to restore it like the bill that was passed under Obama. But, not everybody ignored it. Not saying that bomb was anything great, but at least they supposedly were going to try to restore it. Now, this is a place that had wildlife. Yes, they had die-offs because of fertilizer and other issues, but that very fertilizer, those fields are what refilled that lake to begin with, that inland sea. Plus, they had lots and lots of tourism for a while there anyways. That is dead. It's dried out bed, so all the salts and everything else and the dust is constantly being kicked up. And that water was transferred to by the California government to Los Angeles, to the city. So the city could keep growing. Now, a city that has constant water shortages, built mostly in a desert environment, right, is thriving at the sacrifice of major agriculture areas. And the systems, when you start reading what Los Angeles is, this is the epitome. The number 2 city in America, this is the epitome of the death of a civilization. Large civilizations, they rarely die from one hit, right? They die from one hit that is the final coup de grace, that shot behind the ear, the 9mm shot behind the ear. But the body politic and the body infrastructure is already dead or rotted. There's nothing saving it. So let's just look at the water system in Los Angeles. As of this year, it required 450 miles of piping to be replaced. 20% of that piping, so about 90 miles of that piping, was over 90 years old. So about 100 years old. Quite a few mains. So everything leaks. What do we mean by leak? 8 billion, with a B, billion gallons. So 32 billion liters of water lost every single year, underground or explosion springs showing up, going away from a system that's just totally past its due date, right? I mean, that's insane. And that's by government statistics. Look it up. Government statistics. 32 billion liters, 8 billion gallons. You could refill, probably a couple of times, you could refill the inland sea yearly. This is yearly. This isn't over a 10-year period or something like that. This is yearly loss of water. You could refill that inland sea and do a lot of good for the entire environment in that area and the economy of that area at the expense of just what's lost in that damned city of Los Angeles. Why do you think the fire hydrants went dry? The city's already losing, the entire infrastructure is rotted out. You start putting massive pressure on it for massive volumes of water? You really think it's going to be able to handle that? And it's cascading effects. So if part of it fails, and then it's going to cascade to whatever else you start pulling water out of. because that's more pressure is going there. You cut off that one main, all the pressure is going to another main, and that main's barely holding, it bursts. Or its subsidiary piping bursts. Welcome to reality. There was actually one former head of the fire department, back when they actually had real heads of fire department, who wrote, I can't remember the guy's name, but he wrote, we are just lucky. Because sooner or later, the wind's going to hit right, and the whole city's going to burn down. Because the Santa Ana winds, when they come down, 80-mile-an-hour winds, right? 140 kilometer an hour winds are pushing these fires onto wooden crap housing. It doesn't matter that house is 10,000 square feet or 100 square feet. It's crap wooden houses. The typical American house is made out of a wooden skeleton with a board, particle board on the outside, and cheap. You can't even buy such cheap sheetrock in Russia that they use in America. My cheapest sheetrock, I'm not talking water-resistant sheetrock that I use for my ceiling in my bathrooms. I'm talking regular sheetrock I've used in a couple of places in my house. And my house is built out of bricks and foamed concrete blocks. My walls are just friggin' thick, right? They don't burn. And the stucco on them is more cement. With a roof that's not made out of asphalt tiles, which, by the way, melt from high heat, like from a neighbor's house burning, but it's made out of stainless steel that isn't going to melt. So anyways, because American houses, you got to understand, when 2-3 houses are burning, the next house over is going to self-combust from the heat. I'll give you a quick example. My parents, before they moved back to Russia, they lived in South Carolina in a retirement community. And they have what's called Bermuda grass. So this is a grass that's common in the South in the U.S. So it's a really green grass. It's actually prickly. It's not even a nice grass to lay on during the summer. But once the temperature drops about to plus 10 Celsius, so about 45 degrees, the top layer of that grass dies off, turns yellow, and only the roots are left. And then when the temperature goes up, it starts sprouting new leaves. Well, it's kinder. It's kindling. Kindling. It's not little German children. It's kindling. Oh, it's kindling. So in all their houses, they were living in this retirement community in separate houses. One-story houses. Ranchos, whatever you want to call them. And they're all the same wooden crap. They look nice from the outside until you get close and you start seeing the nails coming out through the sheetrock because the house sways. And that's what the sheetrock that's holding the sheetrock on is nailing. And this and that, and it just painted over, by the way. So you start seeing all of that coming out. You see the cracks, you see this, that. American houses are shit. Overpriced shit. Kindling. Waiting for the next big spark, and they go up. And that spark happened. They had one in their neighborhood. Somebody was doing welding work. Sparks flew, hit the grass. The grass flares, right? So you get a grass fire. And by the time the fire department arrived, 2 houses, and these houses are about 10 meters apart from wall to wall, maybe more. 2 houses burned down. Welcome to America. And in California, especially Los Angeles, they're a lot closer than that to each other. So there you go. But hey, at least the fire department is woke. The top 3 lesbians in charge, who are more worried about making sure that all the firefighters were vaxxed with the COVID vaccine. So those that refused, they all had to quit or get fired. But they replaced the strong guys with DEI. Okay, so there you go. And there's a great video that, by the way, showed up. They're putting out a small fire, pouring water from the fire truck into a large purse, because they don't have buckets. The number 2 city in America, the fire department, the fire trucks don't have buckets. Think about that. You think America isn't broken? America is deconstructed. And this is what we're seeing. And what's going to happen now with these businesses that are gone? With these rich people that are gone? A lot of them aren't going to come back. And a lot of that investment and that taxes that were going in, they're gone. Property values are going to collapse. And all these cities that are already bankrupt, I mean, let's realistically look at it. Los Angeles is an absolutely bankrupt entity in a bankrupt county in a bankrupt state. 50% of the bridges are considered under threat of collapse. This year, they were doubling the sewage tax from $75 to $155 because the sewage lines are collapsing. Now, you try living in a crowded city where you can't flush your toilet. How long are you going to be living there? Not a hell of a lot long. Yeah, every time you need to take a shit and you're watching it burst out of your pipes. So much for living in your apartment or in your house. And that's a dying city right there. And that's a number 2 city in America. And you don't have to look far. The former number 2 city in America is called Detroit. That's down to a territory of a third of what it was before. And that's barely surviving. So this is Los Angeles, and the whole area is going down the same drain. And once these people leave, they're not going to bring that money back in. The investments are gone. Try to rebuild a city when your tax revenues are down, and they're already down as it is. And by the way, in 2015, there were articles that they need to rebuild this whole infrastructure system for the water lines. Let's concentrate just on the water line. Because if we go down everything that's wrong with Los Angeles, this is a separate program that's going to run a couple hours. So just the water lines. As I mentioned before, it's 450 miles of water lines. Do you know how many miles the city of Los Angeles replaces every year? 22. And so 2015 to 2024, the budget dropped 38%, while the costs are up incredibly high levels. Because America has hyperinflation, even though the government, of course, doesn't recognize it. Why would they? That's bad economic data. And they dropped it by 38%. No, that's right. Back then, in 2015, it was $1.6 billion, with a B, billion dollars to replace those pipes. Right now, it's almost $6 billion to replace those pipes. Because they'll have a lot more pipes. A lot more pipes have aged out anyways. I mean, think about it. A lot of those pipes, stainless steel, are not stainless steel. Back 100 years ago, they were putting in regular iron pipes. Or regular steel, low alloy steel pipes. Which means they rot. They will rust out from the inside. Especially if it's hot water. Hot water is the worst because hot water has bacteria and other things that are growing in it. Cold water, the temperature will at least regulate out a lot of the growth. But hot water, I've seen even the hot water pipes in Russia. During the winter, they will burst if they're not cleaned the year before. Because they'll put robots in there and they clean that pipe out. Because you've got algae and other things that grow great in it. I mean, it's not poisonous. Some of this algae isn't poison. Nothing else probably makes the water even cleaner, all things considered. But it's growing in there and it will clog up the pipe and cause cascading pressure down the line. Or up the line, rather. So they need those pipes to get cleaned out constantly. And Los Angeles doesn't clean pipes. Hell, they can't even prune the trees. They prune the trees once every 15 plus years. Why do you think so much damage every time there's a thunderstorm that goes through or what have you? All those branches are falling on electric lines, on houses, and on people and on cars. Los Angeles is just a small mirror, the number 2 city in America, of the rest of America. And by the way, if you're still living in the U.S., do consider either moving to a small town somewhere that's somewhat well managed, and making sure you're self-sustainable, or leave the country. And if you're going to leave the country, get your dollars out into some other currency, or better yet, gold somewhere in some bank or through some company. ESW, by the way, is a good company that does gold vaulting for those that can afford gold. Silver for everybody else. Silver isn't going to go down in price either. I mean, reality speaking, not much. And by the way, just so you understand, because I love this, gold has appreciated. No, it hasn't. Gold stays the same. Gold is the same value as it was 100 years ago. You know what happened? The U.S. dollar went to shit. The U.S. dollar, in 1972, $36.58 or $32.58, somewhere there. Fixed cost of 1 troy ounce of gold. It's what, near 3,000 right now, 2,500? Yeah, you think gold got expensive? All of a sudden it became a hell of a lot less gold in the world? No, 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 no. My dear little fellows, it's the dollar went to crap. And if you need to understand how much it went to crap, it went about 1,000% to crap. So there you go. There you go. So now we've discussed that, and I went a little off topic because I went a bit off topic with California. It's just been an issue, and I've been getting lots of calls. I've been explaining to people because, there's lots of these conspiracy theories. They're lasers. They're using lasers to burn the neighborhoods. No, there are arsonists that are doing it. You don't need to put a plane up or a satellite up shooting a laser at somebody's house to start a fire in California, for God's sakes. You throw a match somewhere and it's enough. And there have been arsonists that have been caught. Now, and behind those arsonists, by the way, there are gangs on motorcycles driving through some of these expensive houses that have been abandoned before the fire gets to them and looting them. Again, gee, would that happen in a normally run city? Hell no. Of course it wouldn't. It happens in California, because California is a third world hellhole. And as the saying goes, how California goes, so goes the rest of the USA. So start thinking about it. Especially you people in the Southeast, the old Confederacy. Do you really want to go the rest of the way Washington, New York, California, Chicago, and the rest of the hellhole start going? As a person who spent half his life in the South, as my second motherland, I'm not afraid to say, I would damn well hope the South isn't going to go down the same hell. Parts of the South already have, unfortunately. But the South as a whole, I would really hope it wouldn't go down that way. But that's what you've got, California. So back to the Germans and the thieves next door, the Danes. Now we're getting into clown world or idiot world at this part. So Denmark, as we know, Trump is basically going to steal all of Greenland and 56,000 citizens of Denmark who live in Greenland. And why does he want Greenland? He wants it for military posts. You can't. Now, Greenland's pretty rich in resources. It just happens to be 1 kilometer below the ice sheath. Oh, and there's also volcanic activity underneath that ice sheath. Or you could wait for the next big global warming, which, by the way, when they're talking about global warming and Greenland, let's step back a little. Greenland was called Greenland, not as some kind of marketing tool by Eric the Red. Greenland was called Greenland because there were coastal forests in Greenland. Because when the Vikings, or when the Norse went Viking and they arrived in Greenland, Viking was a profession, not a racial group. When they went Viking and they arrived in Greenland, they saw coastal forests. There are no trees in Greenland anymore. They died out. A chunk of them were, of course, cut down and used for fuel and used for housing, etc. But most of them went down when the mini ice age kicked in, and they never came back. So before the mini ice age, which hit the 1400s, it was warmer than it is now. The warmest it's been in recorded history. Or whatever other crap Channel 4 UK and all these other liberal agenda brain-dead zombies are repeating for the people that just want more grants for global warming. If you look at the 48 million year cycle, we are at the coldest, we are rebounding from the coldest point we have ever been in. The planet almost died. Humanity would have never gotten very far. It was still cave dwelling at that point. But hey, why confuse their hysteria with facts? Anyways, so Denmark, which is now looking at losing Greenland. And it looks like Trump's pretty damn intense on it. What's Denmark going to do if the American Marines just land in Greenland and go, nothing. They're going to go and maybe they can chop off the head of the mermaid statue a few more times out of frustration. For whatever reason, her head keeps getting lopped off and stolen. They can have to either find it and re-weld it or put new heads on her. It's like a Copenhagen tradition. But it's about the mass majority of what those man-boy-child things in their 150 million genders can do in Copenhagen. Nothing. Because they're spineless. Because they have nothing to do with anything. They cannot do anything for themselves, and they're incapable of their own self-defense. But they want to go to war with Russia. Oh, until this. So we got this we've got this MP, Member of Parliament, Karsten Honegger, who says, in extraordinary times like these, we must take extraordinary measures. We must ask Russia to defend us from the U.S. and keep the U.S. from taking Greenland from us. We're sure Russia will hear our plea, and Russia doesn't want the U.S. to have Greenland, so they will act. That's the act that you're going to get. Yeah, I know it's childish what I'm doing, but hey, it gets the point across. I mean, seriously, you parasites who want us, our destruction, who covet everything we have, who constantly talk about destroying our economy, destroying our society, who constantly say we're not humans, we're not like you, we're savages. Oh, but your owner just kicked you in the balls and said, we're going to take what we want because, you're a vassal and we're the owner. We're the Lord, and we have the right to take what we want. Oh, Russia, please come and die for us. Go to hell, Denmark. Go to hell, Europe. There's going to be no drop of Russian blood to save any of you from your rape, from the R word that's happening from the Americans. It's not going to happen. We're not going to come to save you. Never again. Russia is not on the delusion of pan-Slavicism that was during World War I. We're not a delusion of the equality of the working class from World War II. We're not under any delusions. We see you for what you are, Europe. And we're not going to save you. You got in bed with the Americans. Live with it. And when they take everything you have, and they already are, and I congratulate the Americans. By the way, don't get me wrong. I absolutely congratulate you. To put this entire rat-infested peninsula of Asia under your thumb and squeeze them till they scream and bleed and crack and take everything they own and watch them actually thank you for that? Dude, I mean, that's art. Europe deserves everything it gets. It's a second world hellhole sliding very quickly toward third world deindustrialized hellhole. Why not? I mean, the Finns over there are screaming they want a war with Russia. Finland, let me explain to you what a war with Russia will be like. Because you have this insane, fantasy that we're going to charge into your forests and you're going to snipe us and all this other crap like you did in the Winter War of 1939. Which, by the way, most of the Finnish men still died in that war. So, but I'm going to be the hero that survives. Well, you know what we're going to do is we're going to close the border. We're going to have roving patrols and operational groups to make sure any breakthrough by Americans and Finns across that border gets exterminated in those deep forests. We're going to bomb the crap out of the American bases there, and we're going to sit back and we're going to take out your infrastructure. We're going to take out your electric power plants. We're going to take out your ports. We're going to take out your sewage. We're going to take out your waterworks. We're going to make your cities unlivable. And try to survive when your factories are burnt, when you have no major infrastructure. Go back in those woods, chop up some wood for some housing, because that's what you're going to be living, like a third world hellhole you were before you became part of the Russian Empire. Before Russia built Helsinki from a stinking fishing village into what it is today. Well, okay, you did build up after that. But Russia, the imperial center and everything in Helsinki was built by the Russian Empire. That also gave you voting rights, education rights, and moved Finnish members of society into the aristocracy in the Russian Empire, even up to the ranks of senators, ministers, and even a field marshal. So, if you want a war with us, by all means. What the Americans will do once their bases are burnt and they've collected up their dead and they leave, is they leave. You get to live in the ruins of whatever is left. You've already got a collapsed economy. I mean, this is what the rest of Europe's facing. So, hey, I have no mercy. I don't see any problem with that. Europe is stupid enough. And by the way, we own a fourth of Europe. But Europe is stupid enough that it wants a war with us. By all means, you get to pay for it. So, rant, not rant, but I mean, that is what it is. Think about it. The only people right now that are going to be saved from all of this, I can tell you right off the bat, is Slovakia, Hungary, and Serbia. And the way Vucic is moving, maybe not even Serbia, unfortunately to say. Because Vucic, well, no, Serbia will be saved. Because when Vucic gives the order for the Serbs to go die fighting Russians, the Serbs will probably cut him, cut him a new exit hole on that one. And probably the Greeks will rebel. I'm thinking probably the Bulgarians will rebel. I don't know if the Romanians are going to be smart. But then again, the Romanians did vote against all of this. Of course, they were just shown that they are nothing but powerless peasants, and their owners installed by the EU will tell them how they're going to live. So they'll all live and see this year what the Romanians will do. If they overthrow the fascist regime that's over them, then there's hope for Romania. If not, then there's no hope for Romania. It's in their own hands. But most of Europe is going to go down in flames. And then the Americans are going to cancel all the debt that they have in front of Europe and offer you credits to rebuild you, or what's left of your kids' lives. And you're going to pay that with whatever little resources you have left. Indentured servants for the rest of your life. I mean, I congratulate the Americans. I quite well do. I mean, they've got you people wrapped so well around their fingers into stupid land that, my God. And they've been doing this, building up to this for a couple of generations. And they've done a very well-oiled plan. Yeah, it's something to watch. It's something to watch. Anyway, let's roll on from Denmark and their pipe dreams of Russians dying at their own expense to save Denmark. Yeah, okay. Dream on, man. I don't know how much hashish they brought over to Denmark from Amsterdam, from Holland, for this guy to be smoking, or maybe he's getting a portion of what's going over to the Green Goblin in Kiev. But he's got to be stoned on something serious. Oh yeah, Russia will hear it. By the way, Russia heard the Czechs too when the Czechs were asking to be saved from COVID with the Russian vaccine. And they got the same thing, that big finger. You know why? Because a year earlier, they took down the statue of General Konov, who saved, by the way, Prague, when Prague was being massacred by the retreating SS, and they were screaming for help. He turned part of his army around south of Berlin, where they just got finished destroying the last big German army in Germany. And they in 2 days, they were inside of Prague fighting the SS, the retreating SS, driving them out. So the mayor of Prague removed his statue and in place put a toilet. That's what the Czechs are. That is the essence of the Czech soul right there for you. So okay, you think we Russians forgot? And when COVID hit the next year, and they were asking for the Sputnik vaccine because their vaccines and such and everything else was being stolen by their neighbors. Yeah, we saw what Europe was when they were stealing from each other left and right. And the ingratitude of Italians when Russia was saving them by sterilizing old folks' homes and hospitals because the Italians didn't have a single sterilization machine for buildings. And all the other stuff that was sent for them in the aid. And we've seen how the Italians act. We see what Europe is. Europe has lost Russia for 2 generations at least. Most Russians are never going to forget this. When these masks came off, when we saw the real ugly goblin face of Europe as an entity. So anyways, I'm sorry, I digress. And Lavrov said, yeah, we got, when he was asked about it, he said, yeah, we got the request. It's been filed. The same thing for Denmark. Thanks, we got your request. It's been filed. Have fun. We'll get around to you sometime between never and infinity. So, anyways, let's keep going. Now we've got a new article, I think it was out of the Washington Post, that the Ukrainians can't leave the Kursk salient because if they do, 60,000 Russian soldiers and a big group are going to take Sumy. Not just the province of Sumy, but the city of Sumy. We're going to take it anyways. But yes, they can't retreat out of there because I got to explain somehow why the Green Goblin is sticking around and making sure all of his men die. It's over 40,000 men have died there. There was another. Actually, I'm not sure whether in Kursk or further south, there's another British merc that was taken prisoner. If you're thinking there's only 2 British mercs or what have you, let me explain to you. Mercs don't get taken prisoner normally, and that's the standing orders. Mercs are not recognized under Geneva Convention. They don't have Ukrainian citizens, and there's a reason Ukraine won't give them citizenship. Volunteers that come fight for Russia, they get instant citizenship. They will have citizenship within 6 months max, on average. Usually they'll start getting their citizenship before they even finish basic training. These guys fighting for Ukraine are whatever citizenship they are. True, almost all countries have laws against their citizens becoming mercs, and they could get prosecuted for fighting for Ukraine. British law is against that. U.S. law is against that. They won't, because they're fighting for the chosen people. In this case, the Ukrainian Nazis. But then again, on the flip side, don't wait for mercy. You're a merc. Why do you think there's so many Ukrainian POWs and so few mercs? That's right. So just understand that for most of you, it's a one-way ticket. And nobody's going to remember you. And your families ain't going to get any of the money and insurance that you're being offered and promised and whatever else. That sweet little deal that the Colombians are finding out isn't so sweet. I think Colombians are number 2 now on the death tolls after Poland. And by the way, Poland, which has lost about 5,000-6,000 dead, yeah, Poland has laws against mercs too. So the rational person who's looking at the amount of Polish dead and the amount of Polish soldiers in the field can understand that this isn't a merc, obviously. These are the Polish army fighting Russia and getting its teeth kicked in the process. They're welcome to send the rest of their army. They can declare war if they want to. Poland's scratching and itching for it. Now there are rational voices in Poland. Unfortunate part is they're not that close to power, but there are elections coming up. Member of the Euro Parliament, Brown, if you ever listen to him speak, he's a very rational man. The last thing he wants is war with Russia. The last thing he wants is war in Ukraine or anywhere else. And that's a commendable person. The unfortunate part is there may be a third of the Polish population. Hopefully it'll keep growing, but that is what it is right now. So we will, of course, consider it a great step if Poland decides to wisen up. But I think Poland's playing a longer game just to grab the western Ukrainian provinces. And they will. Of course, what's going to happen to those western Ukrainians, lucky for them, a lot of those men aren't alive anymore. Because the Poles never forgave them anything. If anybody thinks the Poles have forgotten the Wallonia massacres or the Lvov massacres or any other massacres the Ukrainian Nazis were committing, and that were tempered down by the Soviet Union after the war, so they were made to sit peacefully. If you for a moment think the Poles forgot about all that, you're smoking some serious crack. So yes, they haven't forgotten. And they will get payback. And they will get those lands. And, hey, deal with those Ukrainian Nazis you've helped feed for the last 30 years all you want. You two can bite each other to death if you want. It's not our business. So, there's that. So, we keep rolling. Madura got elected. Oh, of course we knew he was going to get elected. But anyways, he actually does have the majority of the people behind him. And when you start going, oh, look what they've turned the Venezuelan economy. Yes, they have damaged the Venezuelan economy. I will not negate that fact. Partially because they've taken a lot of the money that was supposed to go into repairs and new investments in oil and gas, and they did it as welfare payments. And their oil and gas production is falling heavily. What do you expect? Industry needs reinvestment. On the flip side, the U.S. has done the vast majority of destruction of the Venezuelan economy. And let's not kid ourselves. U.S. loves this crap. It loves playing I told you so and I'm mightier than all because look what your economy is like because you're not our vassal. First we're going to try to blockade you, then we're going to try to revolution you, then we're going to try to destroy you through clandestine action to blow up your industries, and then when your economy's suffering, we're going to say, see, it's all your fault. That's American higher than God mentality. Yeah, they look. Let's be honest. The United States is the curse of Latin America. The reason no Latin American country will ever reach any pinnacle of actual economic prosperity is the United States. You are its resource and money base to suck dry at any time they need. And it's not going to change anytime soon. So let's look at it realistically. So the U.S. failed in another coup, and a bunch of American mercs and Ukrainian mercs, go figure. But let's see where else we've seen Ukrainian mercs. Throughout Africa, Syrian Islamics with Ukrainian mercs now in Venezuela. Ukrainian mercs are all over the place. The smarter ones, they get the hell out of, they go higher on with Uncle Sam even more. And they get the hell out of being turned into stir fry by Russian thermal rounds, or turned into fresh ground beef by Russian tanks. And they go play American merc all over the world. So go figure. Ukrainian mercs were caught in Venezuela. Oh, I'm sure Madura is going to be real nice to them. I don't think he's probably going to execute them. He'll probably just put them in prison where there's like 60 people to a room, in a very small room. And they're going to have a lot of fun with these guys. With these gringos. I don't envy them. They're probably praying that they get a bullet in the back of the head by this point. But they will be real soon. So the U.S. responds to its failed attempt to overthrow yet another government by putting a $25 million bounty on Maduro's head. And his defense minister, Vladimir Padrino, has a $15 million bounty on it. Now, if we're going to start putting bounties on the heads of governments and government officials, I think maybe Graham needs about a $20 million bounty on his light in the loafer's head. Well, why not? I mean, it's the same thing. Let's see how far we can go. How many bounties we can put on how many mayors, senators, governors. I mean, do we really want to go down this road? The U.S. is stupid enough that it does, without ever realizing that it has a hell of a lot of mayors, has 50 governors, has lots of senators and Congress critters at different levels, not just the federal, but the state, and all of them become instant targets. All your federal judges become instant targets with bounties on their heads, and so on and so on. Do you really want to walk down this lane? The reason that most countries forbade their security services or their spy services from assassinating, let's call it what it is, assassinating foreign government officials, is because they know it's going to rebound on them. And they're going to have to be looking over their shoulder every day and checking underneath that car so it doesn't blow up. I mean, do you really want to go down this lane? Apparently America does, because there's no adults in the room. Maybe Trump will bring in some adults. We'll live and see. I'm not holding my breath for it, but we'll live and see. Because, do you really want to be a target? Because if you don't think Hezbollah, Hamas, Venezuelan gangs, and all these other people that are all over the U.S. can act like that, I mean, you're going to put FBI bodyguards for every mayor, every state senator, every city councilman? I mean, seriously? You can't get the bigger guys, they'll go for a smaller guy. But that's the reality of it. That's the stupid factor in American politics. Because they don't understand, or they refuse to understand, what adults understand. They may be 70 years old, they may be 60 years old, they may be 40 years old, but they're not adults. They're spoiled, rotten, little imbecile children, for the vast majority of them. The America of adults went away back with Reagan, unfortunately to say, maybe George Bush Sr. And after that, it's just been a degradation of the so-called adults in the room. And unfortunately, it keeps going. It's an amazing thing to watch. I mean, this is all part of late empire mental, psychological, educational collapse. And again, do you really want to stick around to the very end? I wouldn't. But hey, everybody has their right. So, we have two more factors. Russia and Afghanistan have signed a deal, and they're going to conclude that deal in hard signatures in Kazan in 2025 at the Kazan Forum, allowing and opening up several routes for Russian LNG by truck to head into Southeast Europe. I'm sorry, Southeast Asia, Central Asia. In this case, we're talking Pakistan and or India, or into Iran, where Iran needs LNG. And guess what? The test trucks have already drawn through. The routes are secured. And I'm sure following this is going to be pipelines. So Russian LNG is getting around. It's going to keep getting around because it's a high in demand. And there's a reason for that. Europe can continue buying American LNG, very expensive LNG, when the U.S. companies, which are private companies, private entities, out for profit. That's what a private entity is. You don't go into business so you can be a welfare provider. When those companies aren't heading to Asia, which can outbid the Europeans almost any day, major Asian economies, they can. And they don't need as, except for China, they don't need as much as Europe does. But Europe needs in volume. Europe can't get it in volume. And Europe is making sure that it's all over with even Russian LNG. Because Russian tankers, this is the second tanker they're grabbing. The Finns have grabbed a tanker. Well, you know, you'll get your little bursts and you get your little fix to get a little farther over. But that's it. Those neutral waters are going to be patrolled by Russian military ships. And you're going to get cut off the rest of the way. That Europe deserves. Absolutely deserves. So I'm not going to get into that rant again. But, you know, it is what it is. And then we have Zerubashvili, the French resident of Georgia. So, Zerubashvili has left the building, as we all know. The new president of Georgia is in the palace. Zerubashvili left. She set up an office in another part of Tbilisi with a podium and the flags where she will give speeches. And she's off to the U.S. because she's now going to be a fellow at the John McCain Institute of Neocon Stupidity. That's right, the 72-year-old has got herself a new job. Baby. That's right. She is taken care of. Not that she wasn't taken care of anyways. I mean, Macron owes her a pension every single month. Since she is a French citizen and she is a French pensionnaire, and the French government owes her payment for life after she served the French Foreign Embassy from day one of her career. Foreign Ministry, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So there you go. The last of the big rats has fled. The new guy is in. So by the way, all of you liberal revolutionaries that are going to come to Georgia for the next Maidan, and especially you Georgian liberal revolutionaries that are either going to come to Georgia for the next Maidan or located in Georgia, just understand, your get out of jail free card just went to the U.S. She's gone. You ain't getting that free jail leave card anymore. When you get arrested next time for shooting fireworks, burning buildings and trash, and ripping up Rustaveli like a bunch of rats and animals, and Rustaveli is a very nice street when it's clean and when it's well maintained. That is when the liberal international doesn't show up. It's no get out of jail. You get real terms. So think about that. All right, folks. I've held you on for long enough. I'm not going to bother you anymore for the rest of this day. You all have a good day now, you hear? God bless your heart.